Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome to Nature Obscura, a podcast where nature and the supernatural collide. I'm Marissa.
And I'm Grace. Each week, we share spooky happenings from the great outdoors, from cryptids to curses, ghosts to witches, and everything in between.
Now, while we love a haunted house or a scary hospital story, that's not what we're here for. We're taking you around the globe to explore where nature and the supernatural intersect.
At the beginning of each episode, we'll briefly share any spooky or naturey encounters we've had over the past week before diving into the main story.
What have you been up to this week?
I don't remember. I think the mom brain is getting to me. I don't remember the past week, honestly. It stormed last night. That's what I do remember.
Did you guys go take cover in the basement?
We did not. So I went to bed early as in like 10. And then I woke up around 12:30. I think I woke up to one of our trees lost a huge limb. It's like one of those trees where from the ground, it's like 3 separate trees, but it's like the same tree. But one whole part of the tree fell. And I think
Wow.
I woke up to that falling. And Zatara, my cat, was in the room with me, and he's just looking at me with huge eyes. And like, I don't know about you, but this storm was crazy because we didn't get any thunder, but it was lightning. There was lightning nonstop for like 2 hours. And I heard one rumble of thunder, and that's it.
Yeah. So your sirens didn't go off?
They didn't go off. The rain
That's
and winds
good.
got pretty crazy. James and I, we were standing in our dining room. We had our cat carrier. We had the baby supplies ready. Like, we were like, okay, any second now, we're going to have to go downstairs. But we didn't want to wake the baby, if we didn't have to.
Right. Oh my gosh, of course.
Yeah. So we waited it out, and turns out we didn't have to anyway.
That's
What about
good.
you? How was the storm there?
Well, I was sleeping for it, and then Cody was coming to bed. It was like 2 a.m. when the sirens started going off at our house, because we're, I think, a little east of you. It was like a little bit past 2, and I barely heard the sirens. Sirens were weirdly quiet, which doesn't seem that safe, because I'm a light sleeper, so for me to not hear the sirens. Anyway, the sirens were going off. I checked. It said we were under tornado warning, and Cody's like, "Nah, it's fine. We can just stay upstairs." And I was like, "We just did the episode on the butterfly people. I can't, in good conscience, like, we have to be obnoxious. Turn on the lights and go downstairs," which is where our roommate sleeps and lives, and he was
God.
dead asleep. Like, you couldn't hear the sirens down there. So we had to accidentally woke him up. But yeah, we grabbed Sylvester and Junie and headed downstairs. I didn't grab the chickens. I didn't have a way
You
to
didn't
grab
grab Gandhi?
I should have grabbed Gandhi.
Oh my God.
He's got a shell. He can make it through anything.
Exactly. And to be fair, I wasn't going to grab my frogs or my gecko either. So
But yeah, I mean, we were only down there for like 10 minutes and it passed us. And then ended up being more severe, like just a little bit north of us. I think they're waiting to confirm, but there might have been some tornadoes in Wayne County. And it seemed like there's even some in Ann Arbor where they're trying to figure it out. But there was some severe damage to some of like the Yost Arena down there and that sort of thing. So crazy.
yeah, it is. I was telling James how with climate change and whatnot, these storms are only going to get more intense and more frequent.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely something to be mindful of.
Oh, it says breaking news 56 minutes ago. Ann Arbor damage confirmed as an EF1 tornado from last night's storm. The 7th tornado of the event and Michigan's 12th of 2026.
Climate change is scary, you guys. That's my scary thing for the week.
So scary.
Ugh.
Which I kind of like storms, to be honest. But I don't like to think of all the animals that are outside scared.
Today we're heading to Appalachia, where we're going to be discussing the very scary, very strange not deer, a creature that seems like a deer, but definitely isn't. Before we get into the eerie encounters people have had with these mysterious creatures and what possibly could be an explanation for what people are seeing, Grace is going to dive into the background of the magical and ancient Appalachia Mountains.
And before we begin, I just want to let you guys know you might hear two different ways to say the names in today's episode. For the region itself, many lifelong residents use the traditional Appalachia, while others, particularly in academic or national circles, prefer Appalachia. I personally will typically use the latter unless I catch myself, and then I'll use the traditional local pronunciation. I just wanted to throw that out there. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of how I refer to my husband as either James or Jim, depending on the sentence. So we'll see how that goes. The Appalachian Mountains are a massive, ancient system stretching nearly 2,000 miles from the Canadian province of Newfoundland and Labrador down to central Alabama. Spanning 18 states, this range is among the oldest on Earth, beginning its formation roughly 480 million years ago, long before the first dinosaurs ever walked the planet. They were once as tall and jagged as the Himalayas, but due to hundreds of millions of years of erosion, they have been worn down into the rippled, time-worn landscape that we see today. The region is famous for the Blue Ridge and Great Smoky Mountains, which get their names from a natural blue haze caused by hydrocarbons released by the dense forest. This landscape is cut by ancient rivers like the New River, ironically one of the oldest in the world, that predate the mountains themselves, carving through the rock as the land rose around them. This brutal, steep topography created isolated valleys known as hollows or hollers that remained untouched for centuries, allowing unique microecosystems to develop in total isolation from the rest of the world. Today, national parks serve as the guardians of the mountain range that have watched the world change for hundreds of millions of years, including the most visited park in the U.S., the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and Virginia's Shenandoah National Park. In West Virginia, the New River Gorge National Park protects one of the oldest rivers on the planet within a dramatic, deep-cut canyon, while Ohio's Cuyahoga.
Oh, I I don't know. I feel like that capitalization is weird. I've always heard it said Cuyahoga.
Really? Well, I looked it up. That doesn't mean it's wrong.
Cuyahoga? Cuyahoga. Cuyahoga.
Can you look it up really fast?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
actually really surprised. I didn't know that Cuyahoga Valley was considered, like, right on the edge of that. Like, we're pretty close to
Yeah.
Cuyahoga
So
Valley.
I looked it up because I was like, "Are you sure?" Like Ohio, but it actually is. It's just right on the very edge of it. Like it's considered part of it, but not part of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the pronunciation I'm getting, which is oh, stop, let me paste. Sorry.
Cuyahoga.
Cuyahoga.
Okay. That sounds probably better. I'd never even heard of that national park before.
Really? I feel like I've told you I've been there, honestly.
I don't
Underwhelming.
remember.
It's the national park that the river was on fire, the Cuyahoga Valley River. I
The
think that's the name of.
river was on fire?
Yes, you'd oh my goodness. Goodness, I didn't know you didn't know this. Okay, we'll see if we can tie this into a supernatural aspect too and do a whole episode. But yeah, the area's river was so polluted, it literally caught on fire. I think not once, but twice over a span of like 60 years. So then, environmental movement 60s, 70s, I think. I am saying this all verbatim off like research and reading I did like 3 years ago. But they converted it into a national park and they, like, cleaned up the river, that sort of thing. So Cuyahoga Valley National Park really isn't your typical national park. So don't get your hopes up, no offense, but it's more so showing how, nature and natural environments can coexist right next to very urban settings, and that's what's, like, super unique about it. It's just plopped right near, I think, what is it? Columbus.
That's so close.
Yes. No, it is very close.
All right. I don't know what we're going to keep in there, what we're going to do there, but basically, you guys, Cuyahoga Valley National Park sits on the very edge of this region. Appalachia, see, there you go. Appalachia contains one of the most biodiverse temperate forests on the globe, including the rare Appalachian temperate rainforest. This lush cloud forest is defined by its staggering annual rainfall, often exceeding 79 inches or 200 centimeters in a year, and a persistent spectral fog that provides up to half of the forest's water budget. The Appalachian Blue Ridge forests are a high altitude biodiversity hotspot, featuring over 158 tree species, which is the most in North America. The ecosystem is defined by vertical stratification. In the low-lying cove forests, trees like the tulip poplar and the Carolina silverbell thrive in high moisture habitats. Moving upward, the landscape transitions into vast oak forests, dominated by chestnut oak and northern hardwoods featuring the unique yellow buckeye. The highest summits are capped by boreal spruce fir forests of red spruce and Fraser fir, serving as a vital refuge for thousands of species pushed south during the last ice age. Beyond the flora, these woods are the world's salamander capital, hosting 34 species of lungless salamanders and 77 species in total out of the world's 550 known species. This global hotspot is vital for specialized skin-breathing salamanders, which lack lungs entirely and absorb oxygen through their moist skin, a trait that makes them highly sensitive to habitat dehydration and water pollution. There are several endemic species, like the Yonolasi, marbled, and the spotted salamanders. The region is also home to the endangered spruce fir moss spider, one of the world's smallest tarantulas. In total, there are over 19,000 identified species in the Great Smokies alone, and I would love to go over all of them, but alas, we do not have nearly enough time in the world. Instead, I'm going to tell you about one of the most common animals in the United States, with populations estimating around 30 million individuals, the white-tailed deer. Marissa, can you attempt to pronounce this scientific name of the white-tailed deer?
Okay. Just gonna sound confident and hope it
You got
works.
this. Yeah.
Odocoilus virginianus.
That's probably right. I did not look up how to actually pronounce it.
We'll say it's right. I don't.
The way it is spelled, it seems like
Odocoilus.
that would be right.
Odocoilus virginianus.
Yeah, I think you did really great.
Thank you. The trick, I mean, and we could be saying it completely wrong. The trick is just to sound confident.
Who would
Pretend.
know? How many
Right.
people actually know this?
The
You know?
white-tailed deer scientist.
Just like all of our listeners.
The field biologists. Don't come at us.
Right. The white-tailed deer is a graceful, medium-sized mammal, known for its remarkable agility and the bright, white underside of its tail. When the deer senses danger, it flags its tail upward as a signal to alert others in the herd as it leaps away. They are crepuscular, meaning they are primarily active during dawn and dusk. These herbivores process a 4-chambered stomach that allow them to digest a diverse diet of plants, from woody twigs to fallen apples. Highly alert, they rely on large, swiveling ears and eyes positioned on the sides of their heads to provide a wide-angle 310-degree view of their surroundings, helping them to detect predators while they forage. Remarkably resilient, they can reach running speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, and they're capable of clearing obstacles 8 feet high, making them one of the most successful and widespread wildlife species in the Americas. And one other thing, I didn't actually write this down, but oh shoot, I should have written it down. But did you know in the 1800s, the white-tailed deer was actually a threatened species in some parts of the United States? Yeah, they had to limit hunting, and they even did reintroduction programs.
That's so interesting and is just, like, really indicative of how much habitat, like, fragmentations occurred because they really thrive on those edge habitats, which happen when you separate and fragment habitat, so it's really
Yeah,
something.
I have had a few encounters with deer. I grew up in a very deer hunter-oriented community. Did that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, my family, they would go hunting every year. I would help in quotes, clean the deer when I was young. And I don't know, it never fazed me, really. I always felt bad for the deer, but it's like, I kind of also love deer sausage. We don't have to add that if that sounds weird, but yeah. And I would say one of my craziest experiences with a deer was when I was out hiking once. I had just moved to Michigan, I was hiking by myself and a deer started walking towards me. It was a buck. And I was actually kind of scared because somebody just like a few months before had told me that they'd been attacked by a deer. So I was on high alert.
That's strange. That's a not deer.
This deer was coming towards me, and I immediately put a tree in between us, and we both circled the tree until we were on opposite sides of where we started, and then I just stared at it and it went its own way. Like, it kept going. I was so scared.
That's strange. And especially,
Yeah.
yeah, like a buck with like yeah, they could do some damage. Wow. Yeah, I've never had an experience like that. I've, had them where they're like seem tamer when they're in like metro parks, that sort of thing, and they'll just kind of get close to you, but I've never had them actually walk towards. It's more so coexisting in the same space.
Yeah, and I think I kind of knew what to do more than the average person. I think the average person would probably be like, "Oh my gosh, he wants me to pet it," you know? Because at the same time, I was working at a nature center with deer who would
Oh,
often charge at me.
you knew exactly. You were the most qualified person to be approached by that deer.
Exactly, and it knew that, you know?
Yeah.
But I was not about to get gorged by a deer.
No, he met his match that day.
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm really excited to hear about what we're talking about today, and to see if maybe I had encountered some kind of strange mystical creature that day.
You very well could have. So let's get into it. All right, before we get into the not deer, we're going to talk about the 3 rules of Appalachia, which you have to know if you're going to visit the region. 1, don't whistle in the woods at night. 2, ignore voices or screams calling your name. And 3, if you see something strange, you didn't. Don't talk about it.
Hate all of that. Like, I just get goosebumps and my eyes get kind of watery. It's like I have the urge, like, I immediately wanna do all of those things,
Right.
but then it's like you immediately regret it when you do it.
Exactly. Other common rules associated with Appalachia include not looking up into the trees and avoiding entering the woods alone after dark. Grace and I would have a very real issue not looking up into trees. I feel like that's most of what we're doing when we're walking outside in a forest. But these are just some of the rules that people have circulated online and that sort of thing as more folklore, both from way back when and into modern times gets told about the Appalachia region. I already love it because it's salamander capital of the world, super old mountain range. But then you got all the creepiness there too. It's so fun and I really want to go back. But let's jump in and talk about one of the strange things you might see or might not, the not deer. It's a creature that looks like a normal deer but isn't. This creature has been sighted by hikers, drivers, and locals alike who claim to at first see what appears to be a white-tailed deer, but one that moves in an unsettling, abnormal way, or looks weird or off. Not deer walk oddly on their hind limbs, have twitchy ears, and will stare directly at people for extended periods of time. They are also not afraid of humans and can display bold or aggressive behaviors. Grace, that's scary.
That sounds familiar, and I already really don't like this.
Upon first look, these not deer often seem like normal deer, but after encountering them more closely or looking at them for a longer period of time, you'll notice that they're anything but. Something about them is just off. Whether that's legs that are too long, strange movements, a head that is slightly too large or small, or eyes that seem to know your thoughts and are too forward facing, the not deer is anything but a deer. Some reports even state that people have seen not deer standing fully upright. Many have trouble even describing exactly what is off because it's so minor, but it's just that instinctual knowing that something is not right. I forget what that's called, but don't
It's called
humans.
Uncanny Valley, isn't it?
Yes, that is one of yes, that is a concept. Yes, I forgot. Yes, like kind of uncanniness. And I think that's part of, yeah, just our survival instinct back to like caveman times is recognizing when things are just slightly off, even if you can't put a name to it, being able to have that gut instinct. Those that have encountered this creepy cryptid often report intense feelings of dread and fear. So there's an image here showing what some version
Oh,
of a not deer could look like, which is just a deer that, okay, at first glance, you're like, okay, that's a deer, but his eyes are just a little too forward facing, a little too human like.
that is one crazy looking thing.
It is. So we're doing it a little differently. I thought it'd be fun to end on some creepy encounters. But first, like when I was reading into this, I was like, there's so many diseases and issues deers get. Can't it just be one of those? So I had to dive in and let's go through some theories first and then see how they add up to the encounters people have had. So could what's happening with these deer, what people are encountering, be disease or something else? Some believe that the sightings of not deer are just deer impacted by detrimental illnesses that are affecting deer populations, including chronic wasting disease and epizootic hemorrhagic disease. I've personally heard of both. That There are huge issues in white-tailed deer populations. I've never looked more into them until doing the research for this. So, chronic wasting disease is also called zombie deer disease. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
So it's a neurological disorder that attacks the nervous system and is 100% fatal. Deers diagnosed with CWD or chronic wasting disease usually die within about 18 months, with infected deer typically only showing signs of the disease during the last month or so of life.
Are those the ones where the deer are just found going in a circle
Yes.
or doing weird things and then people find them and then unfortunately they are euthanized? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not treatable and it's pretty contagious. So some of the most common symptoms of this disease are weight loss and odd behaviors. Deers become less social with other deers. They become listless. Um, they might have they might have a decreased fear of humans. They can also have tremors, repetitive pacing, and even may drool excessively or grind their teeth.
That's so
So
sad.
yeah, and it's highly contagious. It can spread through deer directly or through contaminated environments. And so how I've most commonly have heard about chronic wasting disease is through like a rehabilitation perspective where I understand that due to chronic wasting disease, people can only take deer from certain counties. You can't release deer into certain counties, that sort of thing. And it's something that most state DNRs organizations follow very closely. So that definitely could explain away some strange behaviors, but let's keep going. So there's also the epizootic hemorrhagic disease. So this disease causes deers to act much in the same way as CWD. It affects both the appearance and behavior. Its key characteristics are deer appearing clumsy and weak, head, neck, and tongue swelling, internal and external bleeding, and cracked hooves and blue tongues. It's actually a viral disease transmitted by insects like gnats. It is not transmittable from deer to deer contact, which is why we hear a little bit less about it. EHD is often fatal, with their outbreaks influenced by weather conditions and size of infected midge populations. Deers that succumb to the disease are often found near water sources to combat the fever and dehydration brought on by the disease. So, there's also the Bullwinkle syndrome, which I had never heard of at all. It's
Me
where
neither.
deer have larger, more bulbous noses. It causes swelling along the mouth as well. So, if a deer were to have a slightly off facial characteristic, like those that suffer from Bullwinkle syndrome, they could definitely be mistaken as a not deer. It's caused by bacteria that causes inflammation and moose like swelling of the face. Some good news, it
Oh
doesn't.
my god. I
Yeah,
just looked up pictures.
yes, it's strange.
It's so sad. Oh my
Yeah.
god. I'm so sorry to interrupt you on that, but
No, you're good. Honestly, I was really creeped out by not deer, like, going into this, but then I just started looking up all the different things it could be. Deer have so many diseases and things they can face, and they just need help, but people think it's something supernatural, and it's just like a diseased or
yeah.
sick deer.
And this Bullwinkle syndrome, it actually does make them look like they have a head of a moose.
So, but good news with that. Even though it looks sad, looks weird, it doesn't appear to easily spread from deer to deer or affect overall deer populations. It's pretty rare and it's not automatically fatal. So that's good.
Good. Yeah.
There's also these nasty little cutaneous fibromas, which are caused by viral infection, causing hairless tumors on the skin. They are common and temporary and range in size. So they are often not deadly and They're not also an impact to deer populations, but I could see how someone may mistake these warts for additional eyes on a deer. So there is, if you scroll, there's 2 different circumstances where, like, there's just one and there's one that's completely covered. Then of themselves, they're not fatal, just a viral infection that'll go away in time, but there have been reports of deers seeming to have multiple eyes. I could definitely see, like, some additional warts, that sort of thing, thinking it's an eye.
Yeah, especially if you're seeing it at a distance. So you're saying that they get these circular tumors and then they go away on their own? Or they're kind of like there
Yeah, so they
permanently?
can go away on their own. Yeah, so they can, the viral infection will run its course and it can, go away on its own. I think in, severe cases, they might succumb to it if it, like, impacts vision, that sort of thing. It's kind of like pox virus where some birds can, I just completely blanked in my brain. Sorry. Some birds
Survive and
can
thrive, maybe?
yeah, some birds can survive and thrive after having pox virus in the wild, not needing treatment, while others may succumb to it. Lastly, I know you guys are like, "This is supernatural, not science." We're a little bit of both, and now you're learning all about diseases that impact white-tailed deer populations.
How
I
interesting.
know, I was just like, it was an interesting deep dive. The last thing that could cause a normal deer to be mistakenly identified as a not deer is the phenomenon of crypto orchid bucks. When male deer are not able to create enough testosterone, whether due to disease or reproductive birth defect, antlers will remain in the velvety phase permanently and continue to grow strangely, resulting in cactus-like antlers.
The photo that you have here of this deer is horrifying. But I also I wonder what it feels like. Like I want to touch it, but also it grosses me out.
Others think that this is rooted in the folklore of the region. So, while the specific legend of not deer has recent origins, first gaining traction online in 2018, the not deer is often attributed to Appalachian folklore, with reportings coming from wherever deer are commonly found. They are generally connected through vague retellings of indigenous folklore that describe blah blah blah, that describe shapeshifters or mimics, or strange encounters with deer. So here is the Albany knot deer. So these photos came out in Albany, New York in 2021, where of course a Reddit user, come on, they posted these photos of a deer with a strange piercing stare. They asked their rural friend out in the quote sticks of Greene County what it was, and they said that's called a knot deer.
It kind of looks strange just because the eyes are a little bit more forward facing and the ears are oddly shaped, I would say.
It's
The ears look
true.
smaller
I
than
guess you're
normal.
right. It does. You're right. It is one of those things where it's just slightly off. Yeah, they and the user did notice, that the deers looked a little too short. The eyes were a little strange. But yeah, this is a good example of a deer that looks like a deer but kind of not a deer. Could it also just have some birth defect? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Right.
we're just making fun of deer who were born different, you know?
Exactly. Tell your sister to listen to this episode. She does not have to be scared.
Exactly, yeah. I
She
won't
just
be
has to
scared
feel
anymore
sad
either.
about deers and their diseases.
Which is worse.
Honestly, yeah, that is pretty scary. So let's get into some interesting encounters, though, and see if maybe they make us change our minds. A man named Clark described 2 encounters with strange deer he collected when he was editor for Fate magazine around 1971. First, he discovered an account from Mrs. Lobb. Mrs. Lobb saw the creature in her farm field that superficially resembled a deer that stood on 4 thin, deer like legs with huge pads for feet. It had long hair, though, pointed ears, a bushy tail that resembled a cross between a wolf and a deer. This encounter originally occurred in 1951. Later, in 1971, after Mrs. Lobb's account appeared in Fate magazine, Clark, the editor of the magazine's father, told him of a weird animal he had encountered along a road that looked like a small deer but with a horse like tail. He shot at the animal to scare it. That doesn't make much sense to me. But astoundingly, it didn't react. Neither of these animals were afraid of humans, and upon reflection, the witnesses said they were not like any other deer they'd ever seen. So this shows you some older encounters with deer that look like deer but aren't deer. We're not really sure, and it predates this kind of not deer, more modern phenomena.
In all honesty, I kind of wish they'd come up with a different name for the deer instead of not deer.
I agree.
It's like, well, it's not a deer, so let's just call it not deer.
So this was actually a really early record for a specific not deer encounter that was posted online. A Reddit user posted on the hunting Reddit about shooting a doe from his hunting blind and walking up to the dying deer. But as he approached, he was overtaken by apprehension and paranoia, saying, quote, "I didn't know who I was. Everything seemed new, and I felt like I became the deer." The Solution Nation Lake State stopped as soon as the hunter killed the deer by driving a knife into its heart.
Jesus.
I know, very I was like, "Okay, it could have been a not deer, something weird, sure. Could have been a man being like, 'Actually, maybe I don't like hunting.'" He was just
Yeah,
having
he just
empathy.
yeah, exactly. It was just straight up empathy for that deer.
Right? It's like, "I know you're a man, but you might have just experienced something called empathy."
It's first time in his life.
He's like, "This has to be supernatural. I can't explain this feeling."
Yeah. And then he just killed it. He's like, "Actually, I will just kill you."
Yeah. Not that anything's wrong with hunting. I think especially when
No.
it comes to deer and overpopulation, hunting definitely has its place in conservation. But this in particular, I'm just like, "Hmm." So another story happened in the early 2000s and was posted online in 2016. They reported two strange deer in upstate New York. So they all had gray fur, long, dark, almond-shaped eyes that stared, and their antlers were two long, jagged horns protruding straight out from their skull. Sorry, I just had to remember what their antlers normally look like. Okay.
They
So
don't go straight up, that's
they
for
don't
sure.
go straight up. They're not horns. They're not horns. Okay. So the user's grandmother photographed those two deer. They had to make sure they have evidence of what they were seeing, but the deer didn't show up in the photographs. I don't know if since
Vampire
this was early
deer.
2000s, maybe it was a you take the photo, you go turn it in, get the film developed situation, but they didn't show up in the photographs, and no trace of, like, the deer's prints were left in the snow either. The user and their cousins encountered similar deer in the same location several years later, accompanied by a feeling of dread. I like that one.
I like that one too. I'm trying to think of any theory that could, like, maybe a shared hallucination.
But several years later, not the grandma, but with a cousin,
That's true. They
the
also tried taking
horns.
a picture of it?
Yeah. Oh, then? They didn't specify. So, I don't know, it is the not showing up in the photographs, the no footprints in snow. Disease isn't gonna do that, you know? So
Mhm.
that piques my curiosity a bit. So let's get into the final and most detailed story. And this is gonna be one big long quote because a lot is happening here. So, let's begin. This is from Brilliant Mind 7144. Love the username. Shout out. My grandmother lives near a popular walking trail, and her backyard is part of a large piece of common ground land. Deers are commonly spotted by people in this field, and there are quite a few of them. My grandma, like most, likes to feed birds. She eventually started leaving food out for the deer to, quote, make friends with them, end quote, even naming a few with distinct features. It was cute, and thanks to her, I've gotten to see a lot of deer up close, going out to feed them a couple times myself. Side note, PSA, don't feed deer, don't feed deer, don't do it,
Yeah, and don't try to pet them either.
don't do it. Back into the story. Pretty much every deer I've encountered has been normal and adorable, except for one. The first time I saw him was around 5 p.m. when I had gone out to put corn in the little buckets my grandma leaves out for the deer. He was stumbling across the field in an odd, drunken behavior. I thought that it was likely injured, so I shook the cup of corn to get its attention and feed it to help him on his journey to recovery. He looked up at me, his eyes beaming into me. I felt an odd shock go through my body that I still can't explain. After an odd moment of tension, he began slinking over to me, nearly falling on his face over and over again. I then noticed that it was missing an antler and had oddly human like pupils. I dumped the corn into the bucket and retreated inside to watch the poor fella eat from the window like I normally do with all the other deer. The entire time the thing ate, it stared directly at me, never breaking eye contact or blinking. It wasn't rare for a deer to keep its eye on me while eating, but I had never had seen one go this long without blinking. Oddly enough, no other deer showed up that day for corn. We normally get at least 4, at most 15 deer at once, so this was odd. Once he finished eating, he continued his awkward walk back to the tree line. He peeked over his shoulder multiple times to see if I was still watching. Once he got back to the trees, I went back to what I had been doing before going out to feed. But then I looked back outside. I saw the thing standing on its hind legs, still looking back at the house. I closed the blinds and tried to explain the situation to my grandmother. She said she thought that what I saw was unlikely, and that the deer's weird demeanor had probably just put me on edge. I begrudgingly accepted this explanation and carried along with my day. That night,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, so at first I was like, "Oh, that's just a poor diseased deer," but I'm like, staring, looking back at you that much, and then the hind limbs? A
Yeah,
little
that's kind of
strange.
odd. Yeah.
Let's keep
And it's
going.
like but I'm imagining, like, it's standing on its hind legs, but it's also, like, looking back, like, one of those dramatic poses, like, it's just, like, looking back
Yeah, like,
behind
"You're gonna
it.
miss me when I'm gone."
Yeah.
For sure. I was thinking, what if it was an al I always result to aliens. What if it's, like, alien that was, like, shape-shifting? It was shape-shifting in the deer, and that's why it was moving around all weird. Not because it's injured, thank goodness, or because it has a disease, thank goodness, but because it was just getting used to its new shape-shifted body.
Yeah, and it had the human-like eyes.
Yeah. It wasn't fully done shape-shifting yet.
Mhm. I like this, thank you.
Thank you. So, let's wrap up the story. So, it gets even weirder. That night, I heard what sounded like a knock on the window. My grandmother sometimes has to take the dog out at night before bed, so I assumed it was likely her trying to get my attention for whatever reason. I walked towards the windows, drawing the blinds to see it standing there, on hind legs again, with a hoof on the window. I closed the blinds immediately and retreated to my bathroom, the only room in the house with a lock and no window. I knew all the doors were thankfully locked, so I didn't have to worry about my grandma's safety. I love that they added that part because I was immediately gonna call them out leaving their grandma.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, like, actually, just, like, screw grandma, I'm locking myself in the bathroom. But even then, like, if they're not scared for grandma, why are they locking themselves in the bathroom?
Eventually, it stopped, and I went to check on my grandmother. She was found dead. I'm joking. I'm joking.
You saw my face? I was so shocked.
Sorry, I saw the
Oh my
opportunity and
god,
I have to take it.
that was so good. I believed you with everything I had in me.
I wanted to say more than that, but I couldn't. Um,
Oh, poor grandma.
luckily she was all right, and we were able to see the creature from her bedroom window, staring from the tree line still on hind legs. We both vowed that if we ever saw it out there again, we'd poison the corn we left out.
My god.
I still hear it knock on the window every now and then, but thankfully it gets bored quickly and retreats. We have since installed an outdoor camera, so if I ever catch a photo or video, I'll be sure to post it. And they have not.
Wow. Wow, I can't believe it went from grandma died to we're gonna we're gonna poison the corn.
Especially because they don't know what deer it is. Like, you can't I feel like you can't discriminate. That's why we don't recommend, like, putting out poisons for animals because it goes up the chain.
Yeah, or like
Oh,
a bird could come down, like a blue
yeah.
jay, a crow could come down and get some, like a mouse? Oh my god. Wow, that was thank you for that. That was shocking. I started crying there for a second. Yeah.
Okay, it's also weird. Maybe it is, and they have said that it does come every now and again to the window, but they've installed the camera and they're not able to capture a photo or video. Obviously, they have the camera set at a bad
Mm,
angle, or maybe that's a common trend with the not deer and why we don't see any actual photos. There's a lot of doctored images of strange deer, minus the one I showed you earlier. But even the one that was in upstate New York, they took photos and they didn't show up.
that's very strange. Like I said earlier, I'm convinced maybe it's like a vampire, you know? Vampires don't show up in mirrors, photos, that kind of thing. Could be like that.
I 100% agree. Because right after I said that, I was like, "Vampire." That'd be cool.
Maybe just try putting some garlic out, you know? Have
Don't
they ever thought
poison
of
the
that?
corn, Grandma, just put out some garlic, please.
Put a little garlic seasoning on that corn,
Yeah,
you know?
there you go. Yeah, so that wraps up the final encounter. Have a lot of mixed feelings about the not deer of Appalachia and apparently beyond, but with this focus in Appalachia. I think I don't know. I actually don't know what to think.
I think it could be a mix of both, right?
Yeah.
Like the Bigfoot sightings we were talking about, no? Like, is it disease, birth defect, or something more sinister? What's another good word that I could put there?
Otherworldly. I like sinister.
Healthy. Yes, I love it.
I actually like that you say that because I'm giving the not deer a lot of crap, but the thing is, we're comparing it to the white-tailed deer. So yes, we have a lot of diseases, stuff like that for the white-tailed deer. We'd be doing the same thing with like Bigfoot and other cryptids if they had like a similar animal counterpart. Oh, it's this disease, it's that disease. And yes, we could do it a little bit to try and relate, but those never line up quite as well. So I feel like we're also going a lot based on the assumption it is like a white-tailed deer. When maybe that's why whatever this shapeshifter or whatever this entity or creature is why it's chosen to look like this because it's so easily to disprove.
That is such a great point. So we're going back to aliens.
We're going back to aliens.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
mean,
agree at this point.
yeah. What else? Every
Government
episode is gonna be
conspiracy, I don't know if
yeah,
that one really works for this one.
maybe. You know how people are against like deer culls and like sometimes deer hunting? They are purposely genetically modifying deer to look a little weird, look a little creepy, so the public perception of deer changes in the area so that they can increase hunting opportunities and culls.
You're right, because whenever, especially an American, sees something they don't understand, they wanna shoot it.
That's true. That
Yeah.
is true.
I don't know if we need to add that, but
No, that's
yeah.
hilarious. It's sad and it's true. So, we have aliens, we have government conspiracies, and we have the not deer. Or is it all 3?
A little bit of A, B, C, and D, which we don't know what that is yet.
Stands for deer.
My god, yeah. It's just a regular deer.
It's just a deer. It's just a deer.
Alright, so next we're gonna do the scare scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is just a little strange. You don't even spare a second thought on the strange deer that you just saw. 5, it's a little weird, enough to be an exciting story you tell someone you just met, like, "Oh my gosh, I saw this crazy deer. It had eyes that were staring at me like a human, antlers that didn't look normal." Something It's basically something that you think about every now and then. And 10, it's so horrifying that you pretend like you never saw it. You never want to talk about it again. Every other deer for the rest of your life gives you the heebie jeebies.
I feel like this so much depends on what the deer or what the not deer looks like or what behavior it's doing. I would say I'm gonna say a 6, because I feel like it could be like a shapeshifter of sorts, and that sort of thing is very terrifying to me. I had to hesitate there though because I got a lot of crap for our episode that aired about Bigfoot from Cody, my husband. He was shocked I said a 4. He's like, "A 4 for Bigfoot? Really?" Even Grace said that was crazy. And I was like, "I don't."
Yeah, it was.
So yes, I guess I am rating the not deer higher than Bigfoot, but like shapeshifter, I don't know. What about you?
The scariest kind of features to see on a deer, you think?
A bunch of eyes. I use a photo of a bunch of eyes with, like, 8 legs.
Yeah, if you start adding extra legs, game over. That would be so shocking.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That would be a 10, I would say, because 'cause it'd be happening when I'm driving in my car alone, which I kinda get freaked out by anyway when, like, because I live in a more rural area. I purposely don't listen to anything spooky or supernatural because I know I'm gonna freak myself out, so if I saw that, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. So, 10 out of 10 if it has extra legs in general. Like, that would stick with me. But I would say if it's just a deer that looks a little off, more like a 6. I would definitely wanna tell people about it, like, "Oh, I saw the coolest thing," you know? You're never gonna believe it. And then I might think about it every time I saw a white-tailed deer the rest of my life. But also, I think if I just saw a deer that was diseased and it was very, very clearly diseased or was having some health issues or a deformity, I would still think about that often. Like, I think that would be like a 6 or a 7 because I would just be scared for the population, you know? Like, I'd be
That's true.
scared in an ecological kind of way. Like, "Oh, I hope it doesn't die a really sad death," or, "I hope it doesn't spread it to all of its friends. I hope the deer populations in this area are okay," you know?
That's so scary. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Nature Obscura. Don't forget to rate and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Tell a friend about us. Tell us your input. Do you think not deer are real?
Have you ever seen a not deer? Stay obscure, Earthlings.
Transmission ending.